Good morning. This is John from the Springs Mennonite Church. I'm happy to be with you today. Here we are in the middle of a week, and pretty soon it's going to be another month. But we'll just wait a few days for that to happen, perhaps. This morning I'd like to continue in my comments about the Ten Commandments, remembering that the Ten Commandments are not given as rules to constrict us. I know many people think of it that way, but they're rules to guide us in behavior that's pleasing to God, by telling us what isn't pleasing to Him. And then within that category, there are lots of room for latitude of what we can do and what we should do. So today we come to a verse that is an interesting one. I'm not real sure. Well, I know it's used in one particular way, but I'm not sure that's the only way that this commandment was intended. So let's look at chapter 20 and verse 7. It reads this way: "You must not misuse the name of the Lord your God. The Lord will not let you go unpunished if you misuse His name." Now, in the old King James Bible, it says you must not take the Lord's name in vain. I think this, "you must not misuse the name," is probably more helpful in understanding it. I don't speak King James English. And I've read where if Shakespeare came back today, he'd only understand about a quarter of the words that we use and the phrases we use. And that's how much language changes. So what does the Hebrew try to tell us here? It tells us we must not, and I like the word misuse, the name of the Lord. You know, God's name in the Old Testament was sacred. In fact, it was so sacred, He didn't really ever speak it. And in Hebrew, there, I forget how many, a dozen or so names for God, each one meaning something slightly different. Here in English, we only have one, God. And unfortunately, that word gets used in many ways that are not reflective of the compassion and love and caring of God. I know you've heard, and I've heard people use God's name as a curse word. Now, personally, I don't like hearing that. I don't want to judge the person who uses it. It sort of makes me cringe. And sometimes when the opportunity arises and someone would say that, I would say something like, "Well, what are you blaming God for? He didn't have anything to do with it." I don't know where that originated, and I'm not sure why it originated, but the fact is that we live in a world where God is looked upon as more than a loving and compassionate God. He's looked upon as the keeper of evil. You know, people talk about something happens and they, God this. And it's as though they think God caused or is the source of or wants to bring ill will and misfortune upon them or someone else at that point. I'll give you an example about misusing a name. My son, David, was a professional track and field runner. He was a 2016 gold medalist at the Olympics. And after that, one time he found out that somebody, I won't say who it was, used his name and his signature, which he had been giving when people asked for his autograph, to obtain credit and buy things in his name. It took him a good while to straighten all that up. And it happens to a lot of people, even people who don't even have much credit. People misuse your name. They pretend to be you. Now, that would upset me if it happened to me, not just because of the finances, but because of the crazy notion that someone else could be me. So when we talk about God, we need to be sure we're talking about the God of heaven. We need to be sure we're talking about the God who cares for his people, who wants the best for them. Oh, I know the context of the Ten Commandments, the Hebrews hadn't been very good. They were just downright ridiculous. Can you imagine being delivered from the evils of Pharaoh, have the Red Sea parted, have food presented to you, and then make a golden calf and claim that was your God? That's beyond my imagination. But I see people over and over again, when God blesses them and something doesn't go right, the first person they blame is God. The first thing that comes to their mind is that somehow God did this. And he didn't. Now, he might use that. I have a son who has to make a crucial decision in his life. So far, he hasn't made that decision. And I keep wondering what else has to happen before he realizes he has to make this decision. And I know that God is directing that. He doesn't want my son to go through all those struggles. He doesn't want my son to experience the difficulties that he's going through. But he does want my son to live a life that he made him for. And he's using these circumstances to help guide my son in a position where hopefully one day in my lifetime he will make this good choice. Now, I can't make it for him, and nor can you for anybody else. And God doesn't want us to do that. God wants us to use his name to praise and to use his name as our motivation for what we do. Not for our motivation to use curse words or maybe even to put spells on people. I know we don't talk about spells, but when we say GDU, we're meaning that we want God to do something. And it's not good. And so this commandment says, you must not. There's not an option here. This is not a perhaps you shouldn't, or maybe it would be a good idea if you didn't. This is you must not. You must not use the name of the Lord, misuse the name of your Lord, your God. And then he goes on to say, the Lord will not let you go unpunished if you misuse his name. Now, how does that fit with a God who's loving and caring? Well, I think it's real simple. There are lots of ways to get punished. You know, God doesn't have to punish us. We often do stupid things ourselves that punish us. I had a good friend that used to drink a lot. I don't know exactly what happened because he never told me, but he lost his license for 6 months. So I'm assuming something happened while he was driving drunk. And he said I was really fortunate, which I think meant either that he didn't kill himself or kill someone else. And you know, if that had happened, it wasn't because God was punishing my friend. He punished himself by choosing to drink so much. Now, I'm happy to say that after that, he turned his life around and became a Christian and actually went to seminary. And we don't all have to do that part, but we do have to recognize the power and the grace of God in his name. So I hope today you'll look around for opportunities not to misuse his name, but to use it well. God bless you. I hope you have a great day. Things like that. Will you think about it? Thanks for listening. If you have a concern or a prayer need, let us know. We'll do whatever we can, as fast as we can, to help meet your need. I'll talk to you again.